Now, before we start, I've got a news item here that was just given to me at the last minute from Chris Jordan, and it's going to be our trivia question of the day here. We've got the article as a deadline looms for a suspect to decrypt his laptop or go directly to jail. Now, this is coming out of Milwaukee, and we've got a judge that is ordering this fellow to decrypt the only existing copies of incriminating files. Now, are you required to do that? Think about that for just a second. Listen. Okay, your time is up. Do your rights really change based on the technology, based on circumstances? Does that negate the fact that you've got Fourth Amendment rights because you're not writing on paper, but you're writing on a computer? I don't think so. Let's look at what the Fourth Amendment says. It says that you're to be secure in your person, houses, papers, and effects. It's pretty comprehensive, don't you think? I mean, there's not really any room for wiggle, although we look at how our government is violating that in every aspect. In your person, have you traveled lately? Have you flown lately? Of course, it's going to be all kinds of travel because it's the Transportation Security Agency. It's not just the Airport Security Agency. They don't believe you have a right to be secure in your person. They deny your Fourth Amendment rights every day to everybody that's traveling. How about your houses? Look at what just happened in the Boston Marathon bombing, where they're breaking into people's houses without search warrants, demanding that they come in, pointing guns at people, pulling them out at gunpoint. What about your computers like this? Should you have to self-incriminate yourself? Well, obviously the IRS has operated for decades on the principle of self-incrimination. That's what your income tax form basically is. You sign this piece of paper saying that everything that I have just told you about myself in detail is true, and if you find anything in there that is not true, you can send me to jail. That's one of the problems that a lot of people have with complying with the IRS system, and we've got some information about the IRS system. Ted Cruz is calling to get rid of the income tax, and I'm all for that. I remember 20 years ago in the Libertarian Party, we were calling for the abolition of the income tax and the IRS, and people said we were crazy. But things change, don't they? And hopefully for the better. Maybe with all of these scandals, maybe we've gone so far that people are ready to hear the truth about the IRS, the truth about self-incrimination, the truth about our corrupt tax system, where the largest corporations, those who are going to Bilderberg, don't pay any taxes, but you, the little people, pay them all, and just enough to keep the interest payments going to our central bank.
Our viewers have demanded it, so now you're gonna get it. More pro-Second Amendment gun shows in the month of June.
What we've learned is you cannot hide behind an I-beam when there's a 50 cal present.
Brothers in Arms, 50 cal ammo review, and more. Coming in the month of June to the InfoWar.
It's interesting to go back and look at the history of Bilderberg, to think about the fact that for decades, they denied that this existed. Just kind of like Bohemian Grove, you know, when Alex showed up and took a video of what was going on at Bohemian Grove and exposed what these crazy people we call leaders were doing at Bohemian Grove. It's just amazing. And yet, to this day, even though he's shown the pictures of what they were doing, you can go to Wikipedia and look up Bohemian Grove, and it says Alex Jones, conspiracy theorist, and talks about his film of what they're doing. So even when you show up and you film what they're doing, you're still a conspiracy theorist. Well, he's actually a conspiracy fact. And, you know, when we show up to Bilderberg, it's to show people that, yes, there really is an elite world government that really is planning this stuff. And you can really see the effects of what they're doing. And we're going to take a look later on the show at the real world effects that come out of the plans that people like Kissinger and Rockefeller and the Bilderberg Group have created for Europe and for the rest of the world. Right now in Europe, across Europe, there are riots and demonstrations. Even in Turkey, there are riots and demonstrations. People are demonstrating against the economic hardships, against oppressive governments, but especially in Europe, it's economically focused. And what they've seen are bankers. Here we've got some pictures here from Turkey. It's just amazing. If you've got this on video, you can see this. It's giant hordes of people. If you can imagine the Tea Party demonstrations originally in Washington, imagine that going violent. And here's a man yelling at him. He says, you know, enough is enough. We are humans too. This is an old man. He's yelling at the cops who are in all of their armor and body armor and have their shields and everything. It really is like looking at these aerial photographs they have of these riots in Turkey. It's very much like looking at an aerial shot of the Roman Empire fighting the masses, the way they group together in a phalanx and have helmets and shields. Of course, the Romans didn't have guns and tear gas to shoot at the crowds, rubber bullets like they're shooting right now. But it's amazing to look at this and to think about the fact that, you know, it didn't work out too well for the Roman Empire in the long run. They were eventually taken down by the crowds, and eventually they were taken down because people were just fed up with the corruption. It wasn't so much that they fell from the outside. It's pretty effective to fight people who are unarmed when you've got all the arms, when you've got well-trained soldiers who are in helmets and have shields. It usually goes your way. But it doesn't go your way when people get sick and tired of the oppression and the corruption. And that's what's happening right here in Turkey. It's happening all over Europe. You've got the central bankers imposing their rule over democratically elected parliaments and throwing out the democratically elected people there. And people are getting sick and tired of that. Now, in more recent history, even after mainstream media started covering this, and we've got an article here from the International Business Times where they talked to Charlie Skelton. He's a reporter for The Guardian, and he says the first time that he covered Bilderberg was back in 2009, a conference in Athens. And listen to what he says. He says it was a baptism of fire. He said he was chased around Athens by the Greek secret police. That's right. They don't like you being there. They're very much, it's amazing to see that every time these guys go to a conference, they go to the most expensive castle-like hotel and buy out these fantastically expensive places that cost thousands of dollars a night to stay there. And giant conference rooms, they buy out the entire place, just like they did in Kiowa, South Carolina, just before Bilderberg. Bill Gates went down there with his eugenics conference, and a bunch of politicians, some celebrities like Oprah Winfrey, bought out the entire complex just so they can keep people away. That's how much they hate the public, and that's how much they hate publicity. The darkness hides from the light. Well, we've got an update from Bilderberg and showing Alex being chased out by security even before the elite arrived there. But let's go real quickly to Charlie Skelton was talking to Max Kaiser, because Max Kaiser's in London. And let's listen to what Max Kaiser says about Alex Jones arriving.
In London. You know, this is fantastic, because Alex, aside from being a great journalist and exposer of lots of bad things, he is uniquely Texan.
He's uniquely Texan. Well, we have to get him on Kaiser Report.
Absolutely.
Will Kaiser Report be coming to Watford?
Oh, yeah.
We should do one from Watford, camped outside.
Let's go.
It's not every year they come to Watford, is it? I mean,
Can you actually, Charlie, for our American audience, can you explain what the heck Watford is?
what it is?
Watford is the thing you drive through in order to get out of Watford, basically. No, that's a terrible thing. I'm saying a terrible thing about Watford. I don't even really know Watford. Watford is just an area of northwest London, just off the M25, just south of that. So and the place where the hotel is beautiful.
That's Charlie
Skelton.
Skelton.
Sort of town like where David Brent worked at the office?
Yeah, I think you're in the right. Yeah.
Slough potential.
Yes. It's on a path.
It's on a roundabout somewhere.
It used to be what Londoners would define as the point between south of England and the north of England, and the rest of England, basically. Yeah. It was anything north of Watford.
The Watford Gap.
Wasn't really considered, you know, just considered full stop if you're from London.
It's the edge, basically.
It was the wall.
The world stops at Watford.
It was exactly that, yes.
Okay, well, that's our little teaser for tonight.
There you go. Max Kaiser talking about Alex Jones's arrival, saying the Texas Twister has touched down in London. That's a pretty good way to put it. They don't want Alex anywhere close to the elite there because he's not afraid of them. He's not afraid to call them out for what they are. And yesterday they were making preparations as these people are coming in. They need to have their fences up because they don't want you to get close to them. They don't want any information to get out about what they're doing, but they don't even want you anywhere around them. That's why they buy out these entire luxury hotel complexes and then use the security and the police forces from the nearby towns to chase people away at the taxpayers' expense. You know, that's what the police are there for, right? To protect the elite from you. Well, we got Alex taking a look at their barrier of steel. He calls it the Bilderberg Ring of Steel. Let's take a look at what he found yesterday.
What are you guys building? Looks like an art project or something.
Hang on, mate.
I'm just going to get a photo here. So what are you guys putting together?
Just a fence.
Yeah, I saw the steel grating down there. You guys are working late into the night, huh?
It's all night.
Oh, really? All night? Wow. Well, I'll leave you alone so you can get it done. Have a good one.
Until we're finished.
You guys have a good one.
Yeah, you too, mate.
Cheers.
Yeah, working through the night. Got to get that up because you know what? This could be a big event. This could be very large. You've got David Icke going. You got Alex Jones there. People that are very well known in England. You've also got massive demonstrations going on just across the channel in Frankfurt. They're protesting the European Central Bank all this last weekend. They called it Blockupy. A lot of people there, thousands of people there. If very few of those could show up at the Bilderberg convention, you could have a massive crowd there, and probably will have, I would expect. There's going to be a lot of people there. So they're very concerned about that. They're busy putting up these construction projects, for those of you who couldn't see it. I mean, they're making some pretty heavy fortifications there to protect people. You know, when I look at this, I think about the power of even just one person, and Hong Kong is now marking the Tiananmen Square remembrance. It's the 24th anniversary of Tiananmen Square, and everybody remembers that iconic picture of the one person standing in front of the tank. Now, what you don't know in the West is that subsequently tanks did run over people there. They did shoot and kill a lot of people there. That part was not televised, but that was a wonderful, iconic moment when he stood in front of those tanks. And if you remember, the tank kind of made a movement to go to the left, then a movement to go to the right. And every time the tank would move, he would move in front of the tank. It's really a testimony to the power of ideas, to the power of people. And although the Chinese people haven't achieved their freedom from a ruling elite yet, they're still being used as slave labor in China. One of the ways that they do that, we went to China, I adopted my daughter from there. One of the ways they do that is to allow the Chinese people to have an increase in the standard of living. Now, certainly the people who are out in the countryside are still living in very abject poverty, and they're ruling them with an iron fist. I think it was Unwed Mothers. There was an article that it's something like 6 times their annual income. They get penalized if they have a child out of wedlock. Families that have more than one child are hit with severe economic penalty. There's a lot of poverty still in China, but they're so poor after Mao's policies, after he ground them into the dust, after he killed tens of millions of people, after the Great Famine, which he called the Great Leap Forward. David Rockefeller, talked about how this is the most important and successful revolution and social reform program in human history. David Rockefeller loved the Chinese oppression under Mao. That's what he would like to see happen everywhere. He wants to see population controlled. He wants to see people controlled. But there's a lot of power in what one person can do. But listen to this Chinese fellow who spoke earlier this year at a Massachusetts state gun rally he was at Tiananmen Square when it happened 24 years ago. And he was talking about people there as to why you don't want to give up your Second Amendment rights in this country. And here's what he had, a little bit of what he had to say.
This past Monday, I decided to visit the Lexington Green to pay my tribute to Captain John Parker. As I was walking on the green, I thought to myself, you know what? The founding fathers of the United States and Chairman Mao have one thing in common. They all thought guns are very important political instruments. However, their similarities ended there. Chairman Mao wrote in one time, he said, political power grew out of barrel of a gun.
Many anthropologists and archaeologists believe that before man even discovered the power to harness and use fire, we were involved in agrarian activities. That is, taking the seeds of plants and then replanting them to produce more. The very foundation of our modern civilization and human culture is centered around the planting and cultivation of edible plants, fruits, vegetables, nuts, you name it. And the globalists have been going after gardening. They've been harassing people that have gardens in their front yards or their backyards. They've called for licenses for people to have gardens because you can't trust prisoners in the police state America to be able to grow their own food. That's why I've come to the realization that we need to become self-sufficient. You need to be informed. You need to have the Second Amendment to protect yourself. You need to be politically active to wake up others. You need to filter your water. But you also need to plant a garden. Even if you live in an apartment, you can do this. If you live in the countryside, obviously you can do it on a grand scale. There are so many green belts and areas that humans don't even visit, nearby cities and in suburbs, where people are now more and more planting their own little private gardens and meadows and off the side of the road. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a revolutionary act to unplug from the television, to unplug from the computer and all the globalist propaganda, and to go out in your backyard or your front yard or planters at your apartment or on the roof of the building where you live, and to plant a garden.
Here are some of the amazing deals at INFOWARS Seed Center at INFOWARSShop.com. The Survival Seed Vault by My Patriot Supply features only the finest survival heirloom seeds for a robust and hardy garden, even in the toughest of times. The ARC All-in-One Seed Kit contains 70 varieties of 50,000 seeds of fruits, vegetables, medicinal, and culinary herbs. All ARC seeds are heirloom. Each type is labeled and sealed separately for ease of use and longevity. The Deluxe Emergency Seed Bank combines 3 of Emergency Seed Bank's top sellers: the Family Survival Emergency Seed Bank, the Medicinal Herb Seeds Pack, and the Culinary Herb Seeds Pack. We also have starter varieties of the deluxe seed packages for fruit, salad, salsa, peppers, and medicinal herbs and more. Go to the INFOWARS Seed Center at INFOWARSShop.com.
A little seed can grow a huge tree that produces fruit for up to 50 years. We have the best life bombs. That's what these are. We have the best weapons against death out there at the lowest prices, waiting for you to lovingly plant them and lovingly grow them and lovingly eat them and share them with others. We will strike back against the New World Order, and this is only one more initiative in our fight against them. So please join us at InfoWarsShop.com, or you can link through at Infowars.com at the InfoWars Seed Center.
And we were talking just before the break about how this is now the 24th anniversary of Tiananmen Square, that iconic picture of the guy standing in front of the column of tanks. And what we didn't talk about is the fact that still in Beijing, even though there are celebrations of it in Hong Kong, with a lot of people there attending a candlelight vigil because it is a very solemn occasion. A lot of people were killed by the military. Not everybody, we always see that picture of the guy standing in front of the tank, but a lot of people did die there. But in Beijing, police blocked the gate of a cemetery housing victims of the crackdown on a pro-democracy demonstrators as part of a sweeping annual effort to bar commemorations. You have to understand that China was used by Rockefeller and the New World Order. There is a massive transfer of wealth. We did a special report on this last night on the Nightly News. If you didn't see that, it's probably because you're not a Prison Planet member. You need to pay up and see this special content. But We talk about how Rockefeller and the elite desired to have a massive transfer of wealth from the United States, as we now see that's happened in only about 3 decades. We see pretty much most of the manufacturing capacity of the United States. Much of our wealth has been transferred to China, and it's not from the American people to the Chinese people. It's from the Americans to a few ruling elite. The Chinese are not out of the woods yet. They are still under the oppression of Mao-like rulers in China. I've seen it. I've been there. The people who are getting a better standard of living, who've moved out of the countryside, they see their standard of living go up. It pacifies the population somewhat, but they are working under what everybody else would consider to be slave conditions. They still have a working slave population that is serving the multinational corporations. These same leaders, these multinational corporations that are going to Bilderberg. An article on INFOWARS.com says, congressional report proves that taxpayers are subsidizing Walmart employees. A congressional report released Thursday confirms what many Americans have suspected all along. Taxpayers are subsidizing Walmart's workforce. The running joke that says, for every dollar you save at Walmart, you spend $2 more in taxes isn't far off the mark. And it says further down, they estimate that a single 300-person Walmart supercenter store in Wisconsin likely cost taxpayers at least $904,542 per year. And if you add in the fact that many Walmart employees who receive Medicaid benefits also benefit from other taxpayer-funded programs such as food stamps, WIC, and other federal aid because they don't pay them much, the total cost to taxpayers is more like $1.7 million a year, about $5,800 per Walmart employee, and that's just for a single store. You see, the whole point of most of what the government does is to transfer wealth, and it's not between different classes as much as we are led to believe by this false left-right paradigm. The primary transfer of wealth is from people to a few ruling elite. We can see that more clearly every day as we see what's going on.
Visit InfoWars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.